Hello. How are
Welcome to
you?
our first LinkedIn Live ever. Is this your first live, Phil?
This is my live, actually. This is my
Okay,
first live ever. I'm glad to be breaking in my live with you.
okay. Thank you. I'm happy. I haven't done a show for like 2 months. So, for people who are watching this back, this is Phil from This Commerce Life. I'm Neha from SwitchGrocery. And we'll both do quick intros for each other's pages. But today we're actually talking about top three food industry trends. So, business trends. If you are a business in the food industry, if you work within the food industry, if you work in CPG, if you work in retail, if you work in e commerce, if you have distributors and retailers and all of that, and we're going to get into three trends. I get to ask Phil what they are, and he's going to play it back to me. And then I'm going to sadly tell him whether those trends came true at my company, Switch Grocery, which is on a pause right now, but that's a whole other LinkedIn Live. Um,
Before you ask me, all I want to say is I love Neha a lot and I love Switch Grocery a lot. And I am really glad to be here because live is kind of cool and kind of weird and sort of fun. So I love it.
I love that. Lori Olson is in the building. Can I just say Lori is our OG, like OG.
Okay. Okay.
Lori, it's so good to see you, and it's so good to be here. And Adriano's here on LinkedIn, and I was supposed to call him. He runs a company out in Ontario, which is
Okay.
like the best pasta sauce, legit. So
Okay.
thanks,
Okay.
thanks for being here. And Phil, can you do a quick intro? You do it, and then I'll do it.
Okay, yeah. So I'm Phil from This Commerce Life. We are a podcast. My partner Kenny and I, we are fixated on Canadian retail. We love this industry. We've lived in it all of our lives, and we are kind of determined to find, uncover, and just tell these amazing retail stories that are out there. And then two is we're also determined to try and bring the best of the retail world, right? So mistakes people have made, so that as entrepreneurs get into this business, they're not doing it again. Um, stop some of that. Oh, I never knew. We're going to try and bring all the never knew, so that you as entrepreneurs, when you really start this journey, you get the best that you can get, right? So that we get we just Canadians have amazing shit going on. Can I say that on live?
Yeah, of
Anyway, we have
course.
amazing shit going on, and we need to do more talking about it. We need to do more celebrating, and then we could take over the world, and we just haven't yet. So we're going to try and help in that process.
I love that. Phil, where were you freaking 7 years ago when I started Switch Grocery? Like, where were you? So, I'm Neha. I am just professional intro. I did my CPACA with a big four accounting firm, Ernst & Young. Hey, Ernst & Young. And then I started a food company, Switch Grocery. It's an online retail store, specialty store focused on low carb food products coming in from the US and across Canada. We are now in a hiatus pause, as are some of our suppliers in the US work on their French bilingual labeling. So, hello, nice to see you again. And let's get into it. Okay, so our three trends we're talking about today, Phil, are pricing,
Mm-hmm.
product placement,
Mm-hmm.
and oh my gosh, this is like for anybody who even just is a human and has a pulse. We're talking about interest rates and budgeting and cash flow today. We'll end with that. So let's start.
On a high note. We'll end on a
Let's
high note.
let's start with pricing.
Okay.
You've seen so many companies, you
Yeah.
run companies.
Yeah.
What are you seeing when it comes to pricing? Like, what are mistakes companies are making? What are successes and wins, that you've seen? Talk to me.
So we're still not doing. We're seeing companies do better at it, but we're still not seeing companies really like dial into what it costs to run a business. So we have a general rule, right? Is anytime that you start selling product, you need to have a retail is about 5 times what your cost is. And we see lots of companies try and kind of rationalize why 4 times or 3 times is enough, right? And our answer back to them is it may be enough, but you don't have enough for a rainy day, right? Like in our in retail and in food, there's so many people who touch the business. It could be a co-packer, it could be a distributor, it could be a broker, it could be all three. If you have cold chain in your life, so if you're shipping fresh or frozen stuff, like, you've got 4 or 5 different organizations touching your product that if you do not have the layers that you need, you will not make any money at it, right? And like, let's be real, right? Nobody does this for not for profit, right? We're in it to make some money, right? We might be doing this to make the world better, but we're also in it to make some money, right? And you can't, we find, we were just at CHFA and we talked to these brands that are all like, well, I should be able to sell it for this and everything should be fine. And usually those are the first moments that we go, no, stop. You can't plan for it should be fine. You should plan for it could be god awful. What should it look like, right? Because we've seen it over the last couple of years. We've seen shipping go crazy. We've seen, we couldn't talk enough about supply and demand and the shortages and and now, you've got like all this relabeling, repackaging stuff, things that you never thought would happen that are happening. If you don't have at least 5 times in your layers of profit, you're never going to make it, right? It's going to be hard.
Okay. So you're saying conceptually, if this mug costs me $2, just materials to put together, then my price has to be at least 2 times 5, $10.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So to come back to that, this is my thing. This is a little bit of my pushback, which is where I think we struggled with SwitchGrocery.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, somebody has to pay that price.
Yes.
So I think the struggle is to say, if I increase my price, which we did for Switch, we increased product prices up between 20 to 40%.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, shipping costs went up. Then, like, it costs now on average $18 to ship a box across Canada.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then our fulfillment center went up. Then our suppliers came with more price increases. So I guess my question is, when we increased our prices like 40%, we saw a decline in volume.
Mm-hmm.
20, 30%, whatever it is. So then how do you deal with that? What do you do?
So sometimes that pushes product into the realm of it's not possible. We're not going to do it, right? There are moments that you can. So what do you do? There's some reconfiguring that has to happen, right? One is you have to look at what are my consumers willing to pay, right? So when you push it 40% higher, they're not willing to pay those. Can we bring them a different product, a smaller size, a different dollar ring? Like households, it's almost like you got to go back to consumer behavior and say, what are households driven on? They're not driven on 40, 50%. Like they're not driven on percentages. They're driven on whole dollars, right? And so if a household has $100 to spend and they were spending 20 on you, but now you're saying you got to spend 40, they're probably not going to spend it, right? So at some point, then you have to go, okay, well, if they were only going to spend 20, how do I get them something reconfigured in value that is about 20 or maybe $25?
Interesting.
Yeah. So sometimes there are moments like that where you have to go, I'm going to have to redo what I do, right? And it's not lost on me that, what I've literally suggested is like, hey, go and change all of your product lines so that you're half the size that you were before, right? Totally get that. That's what I'm saying. But I think it's like the art and the science between what you need to run a business, because you're still not doing it for free and you're definitely not paying somebody else. So you can you're not shipping this stuff so you can lose money every day. Like that's
Right.
just,
yeah.
Right. So somehow you've got to find a moment where you can make some money, and then you've got to find a moment that allows you to fit in that spot. Right. So that is kind of what I would say. It's more of an algorithm and an art and a science than it is a exact answer, I think.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
What would you, moving on to the second trend?
Yeah.
Product placement. So are we talking about product placement, grocery stores, specialty stores, large stores? Can you talk to us about product placement and what's the importance of it?
So this one we saw a lot because we have a lot of food people who they're excited and they build great products, but then they're thinking about like where it could go or where they'd love it to go. And I think where we get stuck is you can you can you can talk to a buyer and put this product anywhere in a store, but you want to always think about where it should go. A really good example is if you have so we saw someone who makes a mac and cheese sauce, for
Right.
example. So um, a fully nut-based, plant-based mac and cheese sauce, delicious,
Right.
wonderful. But they are
Yeah.
aiming to put it in, the fresh section where the fresh pasta is, with salad dressing and all those sorts of things. And so our concerns were, you could put it there, but isn't this mac and cheese sauce? And the answer is yes, it's mac and cheese sauce. Well, they don't sell fresh macaroni in that set. So are we talking about, like, do you want them to buy it with, freshly made fettuccine that's, $9 or $10 for a little tiny pack of pasta? You know what I mean? Like, so there are moments where you have to go, I would love it there, or that's the buyer that I got. But you have to think about where it should go, right? So you really should go with the mac and cheese. So in your design, almost when you're designing the product, you got to think about where it goes, right?
Right.
The other example I'll give is, and they know it too. We love those guys, but Jake and Midday Squares, right? Midday Squares is in its own kind of, like, it's carved out a space. That's the example, right? Everyone says, "Oh, look, well, Midday Squares did it. They're chocolate, but they wound up getting themselves into a refrigerated set,
I know. Because I
right?"
only walk that aisle and I always pick up I pick up a
Yeah,
square or two.
yeah. But
So
think of the work that needs to get done, right? Like, Jake Jake has been doing nothing but shouting Midday Squares for 3 years or 4 years, right?
yeah,
Like, it's a lot of media, it's a lot of spend, it's a lot of attention. Like,
right.
that's what it takes to carve yourself into a new space. And so we're always looking at these going, should you be here? Where should you be? It's almost not enough to be excited that a retailer is interested in you. You almost need to go, who's the right buyer and what set must I be in
Yeah.
for the maximum amount of success, right? And then we can work on ideals later. We can always launch an extension or something, but
I love
place
that.
yourself in the right place, you know?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Well.ca sent out a newsletter yesterday and it was about eyeliner. So they called it, sorry, it was
Mhm.
Eyebrow Day. So they said it's National Eyebrow Day.
Okay.
And crazy, Phil. I would never have put this together. They put together an eyebrow collection. Again, I'm the
Okay.
target. I'm like, this is amazing. Linked to a TikTok that had 7 products for your eyebrows,
Okay.
and then said 50% off all those products just today.
Cool.
Guess who placed an order? But it was like they were putting together, because if I go into like makeup, it's lost. But
Yeah.
if this is, I'm just trying to think of e-commerce for Switch, right?
Yeah.
Like if I go into, okay, for Switch, it would be do the thinking for me. Don't make me think.
That's right.
I like stuff for eyebrows. I don't know what to get. Great.
Yeah.
I thought they could have done a better job of saying these are the exact 7 products that are in the TikTok and like
Yeah.
making it shoppable. And I would have literally just done add to cart, check out. But
Yeah.
the mistake they made was they had the TikTok and then they have 70 products in the eyebrow collection. So I'm like looking for that product, abandoned
Yeah.
cart.
Like, consumers are not, like, like us retail people will go, and even us, right? Like, you'll kind of parse through SKUs and
Yes.
try and figure
Well,
stuff out. But after a while, you go, no, I'm done, right? Like, and a consumer will not do that. A consumer literally, if they don't find it in 30 seconds, they're gone, right?
they're
Like, they're not
for
going to
sure.
look for it. Like, honestly, it's a weird example, but the only thing that I've ever found someone super determined to find is like something like marshmallows, right? Because nobody ever remembers where marshmallows are in a grocery store. But you always look for it because that's the one thing that you need for a campfire, like for s'mores or whatever, right? But other than that, like, everything else is not, right? Everything else is, can I find it? No, I can't. All right, I'm gone. Yeah, forget it. I'll find
Yeah,
something else. Like, yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense.
yeah.
So moving on to the third one. The
I don't know. I feel
third
like I want to hide.
sexy topic. Let's talk about money.
Oh
Okay,
my goodness.
so
Yeah.
we're going to talk about cash flow. We're going to talk about loans. We're going to talk about interest rates. So, and like with Switch, we have so much experience with, we're living this right now. So,
Mhm.
go ahead. Tell me what you're seeing when it comes to companies who have loans, interest rates, and also just what you're seeing for companies that you work with and like companies that are your friends. What are they
Yeah.
talking to you about cash flow? Because they're two different things. There's like you have the loans and then you have your cash flow. So if you can kind of talk about that.
Goodness. Okay, so when it comes to loans, I think it's starting to sink in for anyone who has, kind of a BDC loan, for example. I think those moments are starting to sink in because everyone was like, it's been so good for so long
Yes.
that I think there was a whole lot of like, it's okay. I borrowed the
2%.
money. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. And now everyone's like, wait, why are there two digits
Right.
for interest rates coming up?
Right.
It's not going to be fine. So I think there is some panic around how are we going to pay for this? Where does it come from? And then I have one brand say to me, "Holy shit, is that right?" Is what they said, right? Because when they started looking at their payments, like when they started calculating what it could be at the new interest rate, some one brand actually said to me in an unguarded moment, they went, "Holy shit, is that right? That can't be right." Right? Because we just haven't had that in so long, right? So I think there's that worry, and I think there's worry that um, going to competitive sources, the bank or whatever, they're not so competitive now, right? And I think there's some worry that they're also may or may not qualify for new loans or extensions or things like that. So I think there's a lot of worry there. And I think that one flows into the next one, which is seriously, holy shit, where is the money coming from? And then how long am I going to have to take it from somewhere else, right? And what does that do to the rest of my business?
Mm-hmm.
Is that you're the chartered accountant, so I feel like there's a bit of but
No, I mean that's you, but
holy
you're speaking from it practically speaking. And like, yes, I am a CPA, but I think I just also experienced it with Switch. So like anybody who has, that's why I said this live, I think this is the most useful part of the video. Because if you have a mortgage, you've kind of seen maybe your payment went up or your payment, a larger part of your payment is now interest, like
yeah,
pretty much double. Like if you sign
yeah,
that mortgage at 3%, and you're paying 8%, right? Like that's double you're just paying interest, you know?
yeah, yeah,
So I can just speak for SwitchGrocery and what we did. So essentially, we made a decision where, because we're an inventory company, we buy inventory, we have loans. Our loans are with BDC, with a bank, we have a line of credit. So what we basically decided is that we would consolidate as much as possible, and we would really focus on becoming profitable and really focus then on changing that profit into generating cash flow to pay off the debt. So for example, if Switch is going to make, I'll just throw out a number, but $5,000 of profit a month, we kind of look at what's our debt payments. Is it 3,000, 4,000, 5,000? It should at least equal the debt payments. So that's just
yeah,
to be sustainable in this
yeah,
environment. Personally speaking, we're just literally doing a lot in terms of cutting back costs and really focusing on debt payments. And another thing that's really interesting is to pull yourself out of a hole. So we had this option with Switch. We were still offered more money. We actually chose right now not to take a BDC loan. The reason we did that was because I said I would rather struggle now with the comeback of Switch than take another amount at 10%,
yeah.
12% that I'm now committed to over the next 5 years. So if I can make it happen to not take on any new debt right now, I'm going to do my best not to do that.
Yeah, I think therein lies the thing that brands need to do. Like we're in October, you've got November and December. I think that's like really coherent thinking, right? But I feel like with brands, if you're watching this in your brand, you may or may not be equipped to make that decision. Like I can tell you that
Right.
if I had to do this for the podcast, like the podcast, we don't have debt like that, and we haven't borrowed anything, so we're good. But
Right.
if we did, I wouldn't be qualified. Like I'd be calling Neha actually. I'd be calling Neha just like that's not necessary. Like I'm not
Right.
advertising for you, but I am saying
No,
like
I see what you're saying.
I need someone with your brain to be able to tell me,
Yeah.
look, here's 5 years from now, here's what it costs you to take that BDC loan. Like right now, I'd be like, woohoo, I got cash, like
Right.
I'm good, but 5 years from now, here's what it's going to look like. And then 5 years from now, here's what it looks like if you struggle with the debt for the next 6 months or 8 months till you get yourself steady, right?
Right.
And I don't think, I'm not sure that, like, if I didn't have anything else to do and I could just kind of like work on this, I'm still not sure I'd be super clear. I feel like you need someone to help you, kind of make that decision, right? Or at least help you get those data points right so you understand what you're walking into.
Yeah. That was a moment that I had last year, which is everyone kind of always told me with Switch Grocery, they were like, you don't need help. You kind of are a CPA, so you should just see things. But honestly, then Brian and I have talked about this so much. When you have your own business, it's blinders, man. Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have blinders. And I remember when you and Kenny looked at our numbers, and like you even and Kenny were like, why are you talking to us? And we're like, please talk to us. What are we not seeing? There's something we're not seeing here,
Yeah.
right? And again, like I'm actually broadcasting this to the Switch Grocery Facebook page, which is for our customers. And I've been kind of honest. Like I've been honest with our customers of like the pauses for the bilingual labeling, but we also need to now go back and look at starting Switch Grocery as a sustainable company. I had a friend say to me who said, I'm sorry, but like I'm not in the business of losing money. And it's just stuck in my head, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a gazillionaire. I'm literally just trying to create a business that has a little bit left over that can
Yeah.
pay its debts and a little bit left over so we could pay a little mortgage and pay a little food. Like, like that's what I'm trying to do. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
for me, it's like when you and Kenny really looked at Switch and had like certain things that you pulled out, I was like, kind of after, I think that was to me a little bit of the beginning of the end because you were
Mm.
kind of saying there's some issues here. What are you guys going to do? Right? Either we were going to get more inventory and become a really large grocery store, but then our carrying costs of those inventory, we would have been screwed right now because we would have been paying 10%.
Yeah.
Or we were going to go and we are going the other way, which is we're going to go down to 5 brands instead of being a large grocery store with trying to get a lot of customers. We're going to be 5 brands, smaller business, smaller team, profitable. I don't know where Kenny went, but hopefully he's back soon. And that's kind of our journey with Switch, where we are basically in the middle of saying, okay, how do we make this more profitable, more sustainable, and just even for us in terms of time, for me to say, okay, how much time can I spend on this? And how do I make sure that it is a sustainable company? So, yeah. Okay. Well, that was 24 minutes, 23 minutes actually. And I think Phil might have lost connection. So I hope that you enjoyed this drop. It's kind of my first time doing a live since for probably 6 weeks. So it's kind of nice to be on and to giving an update about Switch. But Phil, since you'll be watching back, appreciated this live, appreciated talking to you. And let us know if you'd like to continue these lives or if you want me to get Phil back. And yes, check in on your mortgages, people. So I think my takeaway is check in on your mortgages, check in on your debt, check in on those interest rates, and do what you can to keep yourself financially sustainable. I'm out.